Does it echo? Is there an echo when I speak?
Yes, there is, but that might be Patrick.
Okay. Let me put my earphones in.
And myself, am I clear?
Am I clear as well? Cool.
We are live, we're live, we're live.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, good afternoon to everybody and welcome to the POB blog of movers and shakers in the professional space, and we're known as the Mavens. For those who have just jumped on, of course, and may just have to binge watch all 3 sessions, we've just had the Expressive Visionaries. It was conducted by amazing Katleho. Then we have the Mavens, which of course you've joined on now. And then of course our Legacy Builders, which will be hosted by Pat himself in the next session. We do of course extend gratitude to Nedbank Unlock Me, a banking product made for youth, and Larato Agency, of course, for crafting brands that people love, who have sponsored this youth dialogue. Without further ado, of course, I will introduce our amazing panelists. We have first Mirriam Mathebula. Mirriam, of course, is the amazing functional lead at Nedbank Youth, and she continues to, of course, pioneer with new products in the financial services market, and her career spans 11 years. We then have the lovely lady Sandra Harris, and she calls herself a multi-passionate individual and a governance professional. And last but definitely not least, we have a man who is Stanley Malemetja, who is a human rights attorney, also an attorney at Right2Protest Project. He's also a celebrity, by the way. We've got to learn that we are dealing with a celebrity here. So we have. So thank you so much, guys, and welcome once again. We really are super excited to have these discussions that we're going to be having today. Now, of course, as we know, I mean, we have an unemployment rate that has risen by 32.6%, between January last year and March 2021. And, us as professionals here, we speak from a place of privilege, I'd like to believe. But with that being said, though, I think we're also faced with challenges of our own, which we'll go into discussing, of course, over this dialogue that we'll embark on. Now, we're also known as slashers. So we're also professionals, but there's also talents that we have that we also do then, and other things that we do and so forth. So we'll get into all those discussions and who we are. But I think maybe let's start off by really understanding who's Mirriam, a bit of your journey in terms of, your profession, basically.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much. And thank you for being as part of this group. I'm really honored to be here. So I am Mirriam, and I've been, in the corporate space for quite some time now. And I started off as a graduate, and I've worked my way through the maze. They talk about a ladder. I haven't found the ladder. It's a maze. I've worked my way through the maze. I've found some dead ends at some point, turned around, and yeah, look. And so you're right in the sense that, we are slashers, so by day I am at Nedbank doing the most on Unlocked, and by night, I started a brand called the Corporate Athlete. And for me, I really saw the opportunity for a platform where professionals can actually come together and, share their experiences. So there's this narrative, about corporate that may sometimes just leave a bitter taste, but at the same time, this is our job. Like, I love my job. I'm very passionate about my job. And sometimes, I'm in spaces where I'm made to feel like you work for somebody. Why don't you start your own business? It's not all of us. that can start businesses. If the corporate employs 10 million people, there's no way that, once you are upset or, you're facing challenges, you can leave and start your own businesses. Businesses are not for everybody. Some of us are actually in corporate, to effect the changes that we want to see. We talk about being the change that we want to see. I certainly want to be, in corporate, and, there's things that I want to change, the things that I want to see, blossom and really just move and shake, especially within our young generation. And I'm there, to pioneer those initiatives to do just that.
Awesome. Sandra, I mean, Mirriam, I don't know if anybody can introduce themselves better. So let's see, have you climbed the corporate ladder?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I am also just as honored and happy to be here, part of this dialogue as we share our stories. I will say that I'm not a Maven as yet. I am a Maven in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you're an expert, you have arrived, and my journey is still continuing. But I believe once you share your story in the becoming, others can relate. And as it's Youth Month, young people can also see where they fit in and how it is as you climb. Well, it's not a corporate ladder, it is that maze, and we're all just trying to figure it out. But I'm Sandra Harris, and I'm a young individual that is also in the maze within the finance space, and it somewhat takes a pivot. But I'd say that my career journey started at a young age. After matric, I took a forced gap year. I thought I was going to go study abroad, and things didn't go as planned. So I was like, okay, I can't just sit around. So I'm going to do something. And I applied to be a bank teller at one of our big banks. And that gave me a lot of work ethic experience. I saw how things work before I actually went on to study. And I studied in accounting. Once again, thought I'd take a different route. And I did my articles, which is one stretching and hard experience. For someone who's in accounting, and all of that. And I just learned from it to now, whereby I've just had just over 5 years in my career life, and I've got to experience the accounting side. Now I'm in the corporate governance side, but that's how my career journey unfolds. And between all of that and everything that happens, I've gotten the opportunity to have that slash this slash that and dabble into other things. When I leave the office, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship as well, more so social entrepreneurship. So I'm also exercising that, and I think it makes the career journey so much more exciting, whereby we're able to create the change that we want to see, to drive the impact and value that we want to add in the world. But yeah, in summary of my career journey, that is Sandra Harris.
Thank you so much, Sandra Harris. Handing over to Stanley. Stanley, please do share your journey.
Thank you, Nompumelelo. And I must say, I'm really honored to be in this space and, to be amongst such amazing Black women. So, yeah, it's a privilege for me. So,
thank you, Stanley.
Yeah, Stanley is a young man who also, I think, like Sandra, took a forced gap year in 2011. Yeah, things were not just falling into plan, but luckily in that year I didn't lose hope. So I made my application to the University of Johannesburg to study my LLB, and I was admitted. So I did my first degree with the University of Johannesburg. Then when I finished my degree in 2015 and started my articles of clerkship in 2016 at the Center for Child Law at the University of Pretoria, I also enrolled in my master's. So I was the youngest student in my master's class. Often used to be teased that at that age there was this theory that my brain is still developing, so I must relax. So yeah, then from there, things just started falling into place, and it wasn't easy. It all came with hard work, of course. Then I joined from the University of Pretoria. Then I joined the University of the Witwatersrand. where I'm currently stationed as an attorney at the Right2Protest Project, which is based at the Center for Applied Legal Studies. And also there, I engaged in some teaching as well. I'm a lecturer. I teach jurisprudence, both to VETS students and VETS Plus. And I'm also a steering committee member of the Southern African Human Rights Defenders Network, which is an organization that is basically geared at protecting activists, against state oppression, state brutality, and victimization. Yeah, then there's the TV life part of me. I don't know whether I qualify to be called a celebrity yet.
It is.
Yeah, so I also do that, and I feature as a legal expert on a show called Abazali, which is basically focuses on children's rights. We basically focus on access and contact with children. Yeah, and apart from that, I also just do a lot of media interviews. I mean, with the likes of your ENCA, Newsroom Africa, and radio stations. I think what sets me apart as an individual is that I'm a linguist. The only language that I'm kind of like battling with is Afrikaans. So the rest, so I'm able to convey my message in multiple languages. So I guess that's what sets me apart. Yeah. So that's Stanley. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for this introduction. I mean, I hear you're honored, but I'm absolutely honored to be amongst you guys. I mean, you guys have mentioned, and we'll go into, we mentioned about being slashers, but now we're also talking about the fact that you guys have passions outside of just the professional jobs that you're doing. Much to being amazed, I've had a rather scenic adventure of my career in itself. So, you sometimes, and I love what Stanley and Sandra added to say that you start off with what you think, you want to do. You want to go out, either go abroad, you either know what you want to study, but unfortunately life doesn't afford you that opportunity where you have to. But I love the tenacity that yourself, Stanley, and Sandra had mentioned, is that, I didn't have anything to do. What do I do? And I think we do know that the youth is saying that it's not that we don't want to do anything, So how would you say, and I know Mirriam alluded to her job, or, her passion rather, as a corporate athlete, to talk about the profession she's in, but also creating a platform where these discussions can be had. But how do you feel, or in terms of, do you feel empowered to create opportunities for others, in the confines of a corporate establishment? And maybe I can ask Mirriam.
Okay. So I believe that corporate in itself, right? It's not the buildings, the chairs, and the tables. Corporate is people, right? It's people that are there to fulfill a purpose. And to answer your questions in terms of, am I being empowered? So it's two ways, right? One, you can be afforded the opportunity, and you hear some stories where people said, oh no, I got this done for me, I got a bursary, and therefore that's why I got employed, and it kind of sounds like, everything was just on a silver platter. I got promoted from this role to that role, right? And in terms of, then you creating other opportunities, then it's easier, because, you've had it easy. And so, promoting somebody else, or like bringing on a team and hiring and all of those things, becomes something that, that is your path and that's your journey, and, but it's not the reality for everyone. And I've certainly, in certain instances, yes, I've been given the opportunity, but it had been after I had proven myself. I had really tried, to create the opportunity for myself, create the environment to be recognized, and so it's really a situation of saying, okay, are you present? Are you in charge of your career? Are you creating, those spaces for yourself? Or are you just waiting for things to happen? Now, when it comes to the next person, once you've like gone past the hurdle, of being in a space where, you kind of had to figure things out yourself. So I was in my graduate years, I felt like, okay, so where's the plan, where I need to follow? And I found myself having to create that plan, and, in the recent years, there was an individual who was placed in an area where did not meet, her skills at all. Like, she was almost misplaced. And I grabbed that opportunity to be her mentor, and I love the fact that, I was supported in that. Like, it wasn't a matter of, okay, so who are you? Why are you, being a mentor just out of nowhere? But again, I put up my hand to say, I would love somebody in my space that I can mentor, that is a graduate, and I can show the ropes. And in that instance, I was empowered to do that. But empowerment does sometimes come from yourself, and you putting up your hand and not necessarily sitting there and saying, okay, where's the empowerment?
I love that so much, Mirriam, and maybe going back to a point you've mentioned, and it talks about the maze. We have the ladder, but really it's a maze. But Sandra, and going into your career, and I'm familiar with it because I started out studying chartered accountancy. It didn't work as planned. But completed then with accounting and tax, and then went on to study film, and then found myself loving and living marketing. So it's not planned. That's firstly what we agreed to. It's not necessarily as planned, but I think from an accounting perspective, it's really structured. It's your 3 years undergrad, and then after that, that you're going to your articles, and then after that it's your masters, etc., etc. So that's really a structure that you're following. But from your side, and I think you've also mentioned that it wasn't necessarily that planned out. But in terms of a corporate ladder, how do you feel, and when do you feel like you're ready to move up the corporate ladder?
Right. So yeah, as you said, you're right, that in accounting, there is that structure, and most of the people in accounting love structure. That, okay, I'm gonna go this route. I know I'm gonna be the manager. I'm gonna be the audit partner. I'm gonna be, the one who heads my company. But I think sometimes as an individual, you need to own your journey, as Mirriam had said, that sometimes if you see things are not going the way that it should, like sometimes it's failure that makes us want to take a detour or want to pivot or want to change. And once you own your journey, it comes out of that structure and your journey tends to change. And sometimes I think that fixed mindset of thinking, no, it has to be like this, I have to pass this, I have to go to this stage, makes us then not be content or happy in a job that we have, because you've told yourself, I have to go this structure. But if the structure isn't working for you, that's when we have to stand up and be like, okay, this is the point whereby I decide to pivot, I decide to move on to the next level in another way. But then again, with that structure, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why you have to do your articles for 3 years, because there's something you're supposed to learn out of it. There's a reason why you're the manager before you're the director, because every level and promotion is going to come with a bigger responsibility. There is that thing where they say in your career journey, there's the administrative and operational part of it. Then there's the tactical, where you more of the one who drives someone's strategy and lead a team. And then there's the strategic part. And all of us I aspire to be at the strategic part.
Of course. What are you talking about? You're a visionary.
Exactly. You want to head your own company one day. But how do you head that company if you don't know what happens in the tactical side, what happens administratively? How do you make wise decisions? So I say the structure isn't there just for the sake of, boxing us, but let's find out why do I have to go through this part of the career journey so that I can be propelled and promoted to the next level. And that's what I'm learning in the career space that I'm in now. That one day, Sandra, you want to sit at the table and be the leader, but understand what is happening now. And once you feel like you understand, you can, teach someone else or make those decisions. Then let's aspire for the promotion so that when we get there, we are competent and very fitted for that role. Yeah.
I love that, Sandra. I really do. Stanley, don't think we are not giving you celebrity time. Your time is on TV. We are just enjoying your presence. But I think maybe let's touch on, and then Mirriam also mentioned it in terms of playing the role of a mentor. And Sandra also, is alluding to that by the fact that during the journey, you have your manager who's guiding you, leading you, finding, by the time you get to a strategic point of view of anything, I think you're at a bird's eye view and an amazing place, because you're able to get or understand that so many things need to be taken into account to have something happen. But from your side, Stanley, and I mean, you are the Einstein in your master's class and so forth, but how important do you think a career coach is necessary? And I don't know if you've ever had one. And if not, creating opportunity, especially from a lecturer's perspective, you're the one who's kind of guiding somebody. I don't know what I want to do. I studied this, but maybe I'm not getting the job I wanted to get. But then you find you can actually maneuver. People who've studied BA find themselves in finance. People who've studied certain different, scholastic studies find themselves now in a different industry all in its entirety. But how do you maybe, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think that's a very brilliant question. I mean, I've never formally had a career coach. Some things are formalized, right? You are someone, hi, can you mentor me? I've never had that in my career. I've never had that. I guess I have role models, right? I've just been looking at people, and my director, my principal attorney, to say, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be like this person. Not when I grow up in height. I'll never grow up in height. It's chilly for me. I'm very short, So I think, one thing that I need to emphasize is that some of the mistakes that we make, especially as young people, is that we start looking for mentorship in outside people who have already, if I can put it in brackets, who have already climbed up the corporate ladder, someone who's already like one of the best attorneys or the best advocates. And I want to say is, 90% of who I am right now in terms of my career and everything, it's because my role model is my mom, and my mom doesn't even have like a tertiary education. So basically what I'm trying to say is that someone doesn't need to be a lawyer, someone doesn't need to be an accountant in order for them to be your career coach. Your mom can be your career coach even if she didn't study law, even if she didn't study accounting. So and also, Rek, with that, I also see the importance of having a career coach. And I remember when I was approached last year, so I was formally approached by someone. Hi, I want you to be my mentor. I was like, it's scary, I was like, yo, what am I going to tell this person? Like, okay, because I've never been in that formal type of mentorship. Like, what do mentors and mentees talk about? Do I tell you about the first time I got a 40%? Do I tell you about the first time I almost didn't qualify for the exam? Like, what do I tell you about? But I guess also it's just career mentorship goes even outside the career, where the person, you can just contact the person just to find out how are they doing in general. It is also just to challenge them, in the field that they are in. And I can say to a certain extent, I do have a career mentor, even if it's not formalized. Remember when I spoke to my director, we were just sitting and I was just talking to him. So he was asking me, like, apart from law, what do you like doing as Stanley? I'm like, yeah, no, growing up, I was a hip hop rapper. Like, that was my aim. I thought when I grow up, I'm gonna have tattoos, I'm gonna sag my pants, and I'm just gonna be like a celebrity, like, like hardcore. Then I said, I also like poetry. And what is amazing is that he pushed me to write a poem. He said, write something for me, I want to see. I wrote a poem, and today I can say that I'm a published poet. I wrote a poem that was published by the Dula Omar Institute at the University of the Western Cape. So you have mentors who, like, they tap outside your career space and they want to deal with you as an individual. So yes, it is really important. And I think sitting here with the panelists, I think if someone does approach you to be their mentor, it's scary, but do take it on. I mean, you can really make a huge difference just by being someone's mentor. Yeah, so I'm gonna look for a formal one. I'm just gonna start approaching people now. I don't care.
And Stanley, that was absolutely amazing. I think I loved when you said it was you are who you are because of those elements and values that you saw in people. And Mirriam also mentioned it to say that, you know, opportunity is created by people. You know, you are the individual that's creating. For her to identify, to say, listen, I've been there, let me, you know, hold your hand and show you that there's some things that you didn't really need to go through that lesson. I've gone through it. Here are the feedback, here's the feedback, you know, I love that. But now, and maybe, I don't know if Sandra maybe wants to touch on this, or maybe let me go back to Mirriam, around, you know, corporate culture. I remember, you know, when we had to choose or sign for your big fours, and you're in the trick and you're enjoying the food and the you know, the drinks and everything that are there or offered to you, you know, going through the journey of signing or getting a company signed, you know, they said, no, you must make sure it's the right culture. And I was like, but everybody's the same here now. I mean, I've been there. What do you mean culture? But I think post that, now that I've been through a couple of companies, I'm like, okay, this is what culture is, and culture is made by people. So, you know, in that being said, you know, stepping into a terrain of rules and established culture, how do you carve your own unique growth path, you know, with all of that?
Yeah. So again, I like what Sandra said around, you know, you own your career, right? So I've heard that, you know, there's different cultures everywhere, and I can imagine, because I mean, different people, you know, aspire to have a particular brand identity, right? And sometimes that brand identity does not necessarily align to you, right? And sometimes you will feel like, okay, I don't fit here. It's very important to understand, number one, what is your culture appetite? Like, what type of culture that do you want? And it's very difficult, obviously, when you're starting out and you don't know what culture should it be like. You know, how is it supposed to be when you don't know? You know, where it's cutthroat, where people are, you know, just telling each other off. You don't know whether, you know, that's how you need to show up as well, you know. But when a culture starts becoming something that is sort of outside of your taste as an individual and your values, you know, you then start getting the alarm bells to say, I don't want to be in such a environment. And what I've also picked up is that sometimes culture does not necessarily represent the entire organization, right? So I've been with the same organization for a while, but in different areas, there's different cultures because there's different people. I've also found that in certain instances, I bring about something that is different. So, you know, I copied from another department where we used to, let's say, recognize individuals every Friday. You'd find that, you know, in another department, recognize you did something well. Okay, great. You know, they on the back and that's it. But in some instances, that actually, like, you know, encourages people. So another way of really just building culture, because culture is what you build, right? It's not a set of rules that are sitting there. And sometimes you can break a culture. You can say, okay, but does this really work for us, all of us? You know, maybe not. Like, let's relook at how we do things. It's very important, though, in the beginning, and it's very scary as well, especially with high unemployment rate and all, to remember that when you are being interviewed for a particular role, you're also interviewing the next person, right? Or rather, the department that you want to be in. So when you have the opportunity to say, okay, what questions do you have? You can ask, what is the culture like? And kind of get a sense that, okay, well, how are things done around here, right? When somebody starts saying that, you know, I want everybody in the office at 8. You know, you kind of start getting a sense of, okay, this is how things work around here, and that does not align to me. Again, because we're in a situation where, you know, you kind of like, we kind of feel like, you know, I have to take this job, or I have to, you know, just deal with whatever it is. We don't have to. You know, we don't have to. You can actually say no to an environment that does not gel with you. And really be serious about that, to say or sometimes teach people, people. You know, you guys can work until 9 or until the next day. I knock off. I have a family, and you kind of then build a culture like that. You carve out, you know, your own set of rules, if I can call it that, and teach people how to treat you. You know, as long as you're delivering on your work and we're not touching on, you know, anything that has to do with work delivery. If you start touching me on my personal,
my studio.
we need to.
I love that. I love that. And it's very true. I suppose in case in point, I mean, the saying is people, they treat you the way you want your name to be treated. But basically, you're the one who is actually telling people how to treat you. And I think from a leadership perspective, you'd be driving or steering the culture ship, you know. And I think I've had interviews where I'm like, I can already see, but I suppose also though, and given case in point, we said that, you know, the percentage of unemployment has gone up. It's sort of sometimes from desperation is that I'll take it, you know. Unfortunately, I can see that it's going to shoot, but you know, might as well let's go with it. And with that, I mean, you definitely, I think, due to COVID and so forth, a lot of people felt like they have fatigue. I wake up, I'm on my laptop. Night, I'm with my family, or you sort of feel like you're with your family because you're working around them, your kids are there, maybe for those who have kids and so forth. But you get really tired, you know. So we've come to a corporate fatigue. Before it was there, it's always been there, and you're feeling underappreciated. But I know Mirriam said that she loves her job. I love my job. I'd love to believe, and I love what I do, maybe. But maybe, Sandra, do you have ways in which you are able to overcome that and fuel your passion? I know you mentioned you have things aside from that, that actually remind you as to why I'm doing what I do and what I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, corporate fatigue is real. It is very real. And you think because we're working from home, like what fatigue are you talking about? But it happens. We get tired, especially when you work in an environment whereby there's deadlines, there's pressure. And I feel like as an individual, you need to realize that you are a human being. And as a human being, there's a whole part of you. It's not just your work. Your work shouldn't take up your whole day. You having other interests actually helps you to somewhat balance it out, whereby you're not just in front of your laptop 24/7, but you actually make the time to grow yourself outside of work as well. For me, it's a thing of, if you're going to be studying further, that makes you tired as well, yes, but at least you get your mind out of the corporate space and then you can come back into it. Having other activities that you do, I'm someone who would like, you know, to dance. I like working with young people. All of that is something that is my passion. So it fills my cup. It fills my cup so that when I come back in the corporate space, I have a place whereby I can say, okay, I've been recharged instead of feeling empty and have no place. I've been filling up with the passions and interests that I have. So as an individual, know that you are a human being. There's a whole to you. You have to make sure that those other cups are filled up, your family and all of that, so that when you come back into that corporate space again, there's something, you know, that has recharged you and revived you to get it kickstarted and do best.
I love that. Stanley, and before we go into our closing statements, because we're just out of time, I don't know what was the expectation with 45 minutes, but Stanley, maybe do you have, and because we know you work in the human rights sector, you know, how do you think perhaps today's generation is shaping South Africa, be it from a and from your instance, because you come from a government perspective, how do you think we are actually playing our part in you know, shaping South Africa?
No, thank you. I think the youth of today is very active and quite aware with their surroundings, and also, you know, their political landscape and issues that matter, you know, for if I can say put it this way, like for the most vulnerable groups in our society, being women and children. You know, I remember in I think it was just before COVID, and there was a national gender-based violence protest and I was the legal expert there, and I just saw, the scores of women and girl children, who were willing to participate. They knew, they understood the dynamics, they understood what being. I think the youth of today also understands what being in a democracy means and what does it come with, and also the challenges of a democracy, and how to tackle those challenges. I mean, look, it's a long project, right? There's still a lot of issues amongst the youth, especially youth unemployment, the issues of drug abuse, and children just falling into the traps of crime. But at least there's a hopeful percentage of youth that is willing to engage in current issues and willing to make a change. And I mean, just with us just being here, it also shows that segment of youth that's willing to, hold the bull by its horns, and I don't know if I'm closing. Let me close, you know, uh, let me close by saying that, I think also with today's youth, underestimate women at your own peril, especially Black women. I think Black women are leading the course, and they should be supported in doing that. Being here, Stanley, as I am, and, a published author, human rights lawyer, blah, blah, blah. I was trained by women. My principal attorney was a woman. My director was a woman. The person who I work with in the project, who's the coordinator of the project, is a woman. The person who I was with when we represented the University of Johannesburg in the National Child Law Moot Court competition was a woman. So just underestimate women at your own peril. That's my message.
Aluta continua. Thank you so much, Stanley. And I know we're going to steal a bit of time from the legacies just to have closing statements from Mirriam and Sandra. But just to close off what you've mentioned, Stanley, thank you for that. Thank you for also acknowledging, the people that have played a role in your life. I think maybe you're going to be on the women's edition for, POB clearly. But, from yourself, Sandra, what would you say to somebody who's given up? And I think, like I say, we speak from a privileged point of view, and us being in employment, but there's somebody out there who says, I don't know where to start. And I think like you mentioned, you were like, look, bank teller it is. I can't go overseas, but I'll find something. Just in a minute, not even 30 seconds.
Should I close as well from this?
Yes, please, please.
All right. So my advice to those young people, who feel like giving up or who are having a hard time, I think as a country, as a continent, we are blessed to have a resilient spirit, and not only to endure suffering, but to push through the hard times so that we can get to the point whereby we flourish and we have that which we should have. So I believe that a resilient spirit is not just meant to make you stronger and survive, but it's also meant to make you thrive. So be resilient in your journey, not just your career journey, your personal journey, in life, whatever life throws at you. Go in there and know what you want, but own the journey. Don't let circumstances dictate your end. Be resilient when there's no opportunity to study or no funding to study. Show up. When you start putting yourself out there, the universe, I believe in God, so I believe that God will make a way and things will work out for you. But have that fighting spirit to not survive, but to thrive. And I also think just in the corporate space, we tend to think that, corporate is so dull and we're just showing up and whatnot. But as young people of today, there has to be a why when we do things. So ask yourself that why in your career journey. Why am I with this company? Why am I at this place? If I'm going to be with this organization for a long time, do their values align with mine? Do I see my purpose in the long term? For some of us, one day we want to be in leadership. We want to be entrepreneurs. And as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to employ people one day who are going to be, your corporate professionals. You need to understand and use your journey to get to where you want to be, but also to get the learning so that you can flourish there. And yeah, beyond that, I wish everyone the best. I think we are in a space and a time as a country whereby, yes, there is, you know, that down part of the unemployment, but we are creating opportunities. Build the legacy within your corporate space. Open up doors for other people. And as Stanley said, as Black women, as a Black young person, it's our time to thrive. But let's not just be at the table, but let's have substance and be people of value. And by doing that, I have no doubt that we will succeed.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Mirriam, definitely, as an 11th, you are the Maven here amongst all of us.
Sandra has taken all the words.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say really is that own your career and take pride in what you do, right? Do not look at your career just based on your department or your organization. If you're an admin person, be the best admin person in your industry, right? Look beyond your industry. Who else is actually doing it? Like, don't benchmark yourself, just with your colleague or like your immediate department. But in the States, globally, who's doing what you're doing and how, can you learn from them? Right now, we're in a world where we are so connected, right? So we can actually work from home and work for international companies, right? So really look at your career and expand your thinking. And I really want to close off by saying, no dream is too big enough for you to achieve, right? Go for your dreams, go for it, go for your dreams with everything that you have, right? Do not entertain people who are going to say, when really CEO, leave those people, right?
Yeah.
They're comfortable with their lives. If you're not comfortable about where you are, go for your dreams, right? When you are called for your particular calling, I also believe in God. I'm a Christian, and sometimes I really sit and think, God, I know that you've called me for corporate, right? But when He called me, it wasn't a conference call, it wasn't a webinar. Yes. I was alone. Therefore, they bother me, and therefore I will go for them. And so go for your dreams.
Go for your dreams. Thank you so much to you, Sandra. Thank you, Mirriam. Thank you, Stanley. It was an absolutely amazing discussion. I think in summary, all you're saying is lead from your chair. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. It is you who is steering the ship. You decide, you do, you excel, you become intentional. But from the Mavens, we want to thank you and goodbye.